So what do you want to talk about today, Andy?
It's a large topic that we could talk forever about. But I think I wanted to kind of highlight customer service and its relationship or its connection with relationship. Yeah, like I think Caribbean has a unique experience when it comes to customer service from both sides of the cash register, so to speak. Just quickly touch on 3 issues or pet peeves of mine, and then 3 ways I think we could fix it.
All right, cool.
What do you want to talk about today?
What I want to talk about today, I want to talk about websites still relevant. I want to touch on some of that because interestingly, I was working on the website for this very podcast, and I had that thought while I was doing that. So, yeah. So
I have an opinion about that.
You have an opinion about that? Okay, good. That's
Strong
good.
opinion.
Opinions are good. Opinions are good.
All right, let's get started.
This podcast, we just restarted it. And interestingly, not only did we do one episode in December of 2023, we also had a website that we were developing all the way back then. It's probably more into 2024. And so this website had been sitting public, but not completed for a number of years. And so when we started the podcast back, I said, this is the time for me to now go back and begin to tweak the website, begin to make it relevant. And so I had done the design. We were getting help from a developer who subsequently exited the project. So I decided I'll complete it. And I did go and complete the website, and I've been working on it for the past week. But while digging into it, I said, do we really need a podcast website? Is it something that we need? And so I began to think about all of our websites. And I have to ask the question, I'm going to put you on the spot here. How many websites does Relate Studios have, including founder websites?
Oh, if I count them, I could get. If I guess, I wouldn't guess correctly, but I could count them because I know all of them.
Okay, go ahead.
Active,
accessible to the public, with fairly current
you have RelateStudios.com.
That's one.
Which is our corporate website.
Right.
You have itsgoodtorelate.com.
Right.
Which is this podcast.
Right.
You have Relate Weddings and Family, which is back when we used to do family stuff, still there. We have Tobago Wedding Photography, which for some reason still performs on Google searches for certain keywords. Hasn't been updated in maybe...
What? Tobago Wedding Photography?
Yeah, so that's Tobago Wedding Photography. Then I have ayindesmith.com. Then I have jumabannister.com. And I think that's a fairly complex web strategy or website strategy.
Hold on.
What am I missing? Did I get more than you got?
Yeah, you did get more than I got. And because I go and check these things frequently and I see them. Okay, let me tell you what it is. The other question would be that, okay, so we have a certain amount of websites available, publicly accessible. How many domains do you think we own? Relate Studios.
That's more. I don't know all, but that's definitely more.
Right, more domains.
Yeah.
All right, so let me tell you what it is, the actual figures, right? So currently we have 5 active websites, just 5. And we have, we have 10 domains, 5 active websites. Let me give you the rundown. One of them I'm not going to mention because one of them is tied to our Google account, and I don't want that to be public, so I'm not going to mention the name of that, but I'm just going to say, even though if I say it, nobody will know how to use it, but I'm not going to say it, but I'm just going to have to believe me that it exists. So we have itsgoodtorelate.com, relatestudios.com, Relate Weddings and Family. We no longer have TobagoWeddingPhotography.com. We cancel that. So the website does not exist. If you Google it right now, if you try to go to the URL, nothing will come up because we don't need that. We're not doing weddings anymore. And we have my website, which is jumabannister.com, and we have your website, your founder website, which is ayindesmith.com, all accessible to the public. In terms of domains, we have like 10 domains. So I call those 5. And then we have elevatecaribbean.com, which we own. We also I recently bought videosforceos.com, which is something that we're working on. And On my side, I have two personal websites, which is usefulcreator.com, which is supposed to mirror the podcast, Useful Creator Podcast. And then I have makeusefulcontent.com. So when we have over 10 domains, 5 active websites, right? So the question is, do you think that is too many?
This requires a little thought. Too many is very definitive. Too many also carries us a little bit of bias with it. It's not a question of too many because it is more of a question of are they useful? So like I looked at a video recently and the guy says, I'll sell you this bag for $1,000. And the guy said, no way, it's not worth $1,000. And he was like, well, rich people think differently. Rich people will ask, well, what is in the bag? And then judge whether or not it's worth $1,000. So in a similar fashion, you have to ask yourself, what's the value of the websites to us? And is it going to hold some value in the future that you don't necessarily know about today? So the question is, what does it hold for us? So not really, is it too much, but does it hold any value for us? And some of those, and the active ones definitely carry value, particularly if you have to attract business online and if a lot of your inquiries come from online, which for a lot of businesses, that's what happens these days. Even if you don't get inbound from online, people will encounter you, discover you. You will build awareness by having a presence online. So those are useful. The question is, are we clear about our future strategy that we should be holding on to 5, the 5 that are not live? That's the question.
Right. So the 5 domains that are not live. Okay, good. So those are all good questions. Should we be holding on to domains? We have 5 live that are active now. Should we be holding on to the remainder of the domains that are not live? I think all of the domains that we own, we have plans for them, or at least we're sitting on the URL, the domain name, so that no one else can take them and use them for something else. Because once you start to talk about something publicly, it's highly recommended that you grab the domain.
Right.
Even if you never use it, once you start talking about something publicly, get that domain just in case. And I think that actually has worked out well in some cases and terribly in other cases. But we tend to grab domains we are pretty certain about that we want to keep those names. Yeah.
Yeah. My own experience probably has me a little biased because I didn't always have access to ayindesmith.com. And it was a little bit of a journey. And you know most of that story. There's a little bit of a journey to actually get in ayindesmith.com. Yeah, I am thinking that Ayinde is a unique name. And even if Ayinde is not unique enough, for sure there's nobody else Ayinde Smith. Turns out, yes, there's other Ayinde Smiths, a fair bit. And one of them actually owned the URL for Ayinde Smith for a while. And it took a little while, but eventually I was able to get it. So I am predisposed to, hey, this thing might be valuable. Hold on to it. Because website real estate does hold value. And especially if the intent is to build around it. So getting back to your original question about whether or not websites are still relevant, I think they're still significantly relevant to businesses, even to creators and individuals. I think once you're talking about a brand, you have to think about building a website. The first reason I would say you need a website is that marketers have to go where the market is. And we're definitely still online. I know some companies want us to go into the metaverse or want us to go in other parts of the future. But as it stands right now, humans are still primarily discovering stuff, engaging with brands, engaging with companies online. So you have to be online so that people can find you. And I'm not sure social media presence is enough long term.
Because, that's the other argument. Well, I am online. I'm on social media. That's the other argument behind the whole thing, right? And I've heard people say that, by the way. Yeah,
well, my argument to that is always that social media is very good and you should be using it, but you don't own it. And so that creates a bunch of issues. You can lose access to your page. You could be kicked off the platform. You could be deplatformed. The company could go out of business. People seem to forget some of these companies were big and massive, MySpace, and no longer exist or exist in a way that they're not relevant. So you run some risk by basing your entire digital strategy just on social media. So websites give you that real estate that you could kind of hold on to and have access to and manage. And to me, it forms the center of your digital strategy. So you can keep content there. You can drive traffic. So I would use social media in a way that engages with the target audience and engages with the potential customers. But then I need somewhere to send them.
Yeah. To complete the transaction, to say this is, although a lot of these platforms are creating in-platform shops that you can shop in. So like there's TikTok shop. They're trying to move the traffic away from websites, especially for clothing, for fast-moving consumer goods, for things of that nature, where the purchase is not very heavy, whether it's a light purchase. So you're not spending a lot of money, but you can stay inside the app and you could shop to no end if you wanted to. But I guess for businesses, it makes a lot of sense for us. So you mentioned something very important there. You mentioned digital strategy, which is really important. And I think for us, our websites are a part of a digital ecosystem, or if you may, a digital marketing ecosystem, right? Yeah. Which under that, there's a content ecosystem. And so all of the dots are connected in very specific ways. And while we know the term funnel, which is Russell Brunson, while we know the term funnels from that becoming a thing over the last couple of decades, the idea of getting a consumer from not knowing you to making a buying decision is something that is real. It's like they're not aware of you. Then they become aware of you. Then they get to know you a bit. They like you. And then when they have an issue that matches with the problem you solve, then they make a purchase. It is a journey, a customer journey. That's what we call it. And so your website has to match a part of that customer journey. So you have to create a space for that. And that is part of your digital strategy and also your digital marketing ecosystem. And inside of that, there is a lot of things like you mentioned social media content. So let's talk about like the different platforms that you might be on and we are on. So we are on several different platforms. So we have videos going up there. And then on the websites, we have blogs and articles that we are posting. There are websites. And then if you have an email strategy would tie into that. So I think as a pillar inside of your digital marketing ecosystem, websites do stand very, very, very strong. But I have another question to ask, right? So the other question I have to ask is that, do you think that based on, because let me give you some stats. Currently, there is more Google search volume than ever before. So Google search volume has increased. Let me describe what search volume is. If you go to Google and you type in something that you want to know about and you hit search, that adds to the search volume. So you look for a particular term. Year over year for the past decade or whatever it is, Google search volume has increased by like 20%. And the funny thing is that when AI became a thing back in 2023, everyone thought that Google search volume would decrease. But in fact, Google search volume has increased still. You know what has decreased? What has decreased significantly is the click-through rates to websites. Right. So for example, somebody would search for something and instead of clicking on the link to take them to the website to read more, you know what they're getting, right? They're getting AI summaries inside of the search results. So a lot of the things that they're searching for, like for example, if they're not making an immediate buying decision, they are not going to click to go to the website to read about it. They're going to take whatever Google is serving up to them as the summary in order to make a decision. It doesn't mean that they won't eventually get to the website and complete the transaction. What it does mean is that the evidence that we are seeing for people going to websites says that people are clicking to websites less and less and less. And I think that is one of the arguments for creating a content ecosystem and also having a website to complete those transactions.
So what would you say should be the response of businesses inside of that kind of situation?
Well, I think they have to pay very close attention, not just to one part of their digital strategy, but all parts of their digital strategy. So how are people going to discover you? How are people going to get to know you? How are people going to discover what problem you solve? And then how can they now remember you in a way that when they have to make a decision that they're going to say, oh, I can go to this X company X or company Y and actually do that transaction. At the end of the transaction, they have to end up somewhere. They have to end up somewhere. So they might say, I can't remember exactly I can't find this social media video back because social media feeds are always changing and shifting. Mm-hmm. Even if you save a video, people save videos and they don't even know how to access their saved videos. So sometimes it's not so much the things on social media that people go back to. What they would want to remember is just remember in their heads, like, oh, this is the company name or the company brand or the company colors. Or sometimes they have some idea of what you said and they do a search for that and then they find you back, right? But when they find you back, now they have to go to a place where there is actual contact information and a way for them to get in contact with you in order to complete the transaction. And I think that is where your website becomes very important, making that process smooth, making your company accessible, doing it in such a way that kind of fits into the need, the way that particular consumer would communicate with you. Because some people love to fill out forms, some people love to make calls, some people love messaging systems, some people will send an email and will wait. So there are different people do things in different ways, right? And not everybody will want to engage with the company in the same way in order to get the service. So we have to give them options, and a website can be the portal through which they can explore those options.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, so it sounds like businesses need to be or try to be as ubiquitous as possible. So be where people are likely to be. And even though there might be a reduction in click-through rates, it may not necessarily mean there's a reduction in access to potential markets. A lot of the click-through that happened before was clicking through to see what is happening without actually solving the problem. With AI summaries, a lot of times your question is answered in the AI summary. But as you say, in order to complete any kind of commercial transaction or to engage with a brand in any real way, they still have to leave AI and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so if they decide to do that, they must either know your brand name so they can search for that, know your website URL so they can type that in directly, or at least know enough about your industry. And you should be able to ping for certain keywords so that if they put in those keywords, they find you. Whether they find you on your website or they find you on social media, eventually they have to engage with you by getting back to your website. I mean, some people still live in the real world, and there might be a shift to IRL stuff where they might call you on the phone or they might come to the physical office. But to get that information, it has to exist online, and the best place might still be your website.
Yeah, and I think that it's a very, very important part of your digital ecosystem, your digital strategy, having a place where people can go to. So to answer the question, going back to the top, do we need all these websites? I think it's very important that we have all these websites. Once you made the point that once they give value, once they're relevant to our goals, and once they're relevant to the people we serve, it's important that we have these websites available. And the second thing I would add before I hand over to you and we talk about your question is that when we think about the ways in which people can get into contact with us for our services, one of the ways that people still do is just by searching for a generic term and hoping they encounter us. So for example, you said to me that we were number 3 in the list for live streaming or something like that, which I didn't know. Our website pops up third in the third results. We are still currently number 1 if you search content strategy, Trinidad and Tobago. We still pop up first. And, so I'm thinking, my thought about that is like, listen, we could rank for anything we want to rank for, we could rule those things because we are building out this ecosystem that connects all these dots. And we are consistently putting out content that will allow Google to see. And then we have backlinks too inside of that, which is why when I did this podcast website, I said there were 3 links on top, 3 links in the navigation. And I immediately said, let me just put a work with us in the top navigation so that when they click on it, they could go back to our commercial website. Now, it's about the podcast. It's a podcast website, but we produced it. So therefore, and we run it. So I can put a link back to our website.
Yeah.
And now there's a backlink that builds authority for RelateStudios.com. And so I think the more people think about it like that, the more they're able to maximize on the way these digital ecosystems work. And then people are able to find you much easier. And as a result, could do business with you even easier. Yeah.
I really like the term ecosystem. So it's like we're creating this ecosystem that kind of feeds itself and can generate interest for different parts of it when necessary. So it's almost like a living organism. And I think that should be better for us and not worse for us.
Yeah, I agree 100%. All right, let's go on to what you want to talk about today, Andy.
Well, in the Caribbean, it's an ongoing joke about the levels of customer service. And generally, it's negative. Generally. And I just wanted to look at its relationship or its connection with relationship. I think sometimes people think customer service is very rigid, or it's about using certain words. So like the first issue I have, or pet peeve I have with current customer service in the Caribbean and in Trinidad and Tobago in particular, is that the counter to the bad customer service is overly structured scripts. So I kind of refer to it like the welcome to KFC issue. So you can never go into KFC and they don't greet you with welcome to KFC. How can I take your order, please? You get the script, so they're trained on the scripts, but you look at their face and they don't want to help you. Or you ask for something that changes the menu just a slight bit and you get a lot of pushback. So the issue then is you might say the right words, but there's no real human connection.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, first of all, I don't know what that is because I haven't been in the KFC in years.
Or in any fast food restaurant, especially the international ones.
Yeah, I haven't been in the KFC in years. I mean, I go to other fast food restaurants, but KFC in particular, we tend to stay clear. But let me just, there's experience I had when I first went to the UK and I went to London. And I'll never forget this experience because it speaks exactly to what you're saying there, where we were on the train going somewhere and I think we made a wrong turn or whatever. We had to come off the train. So we were hungry. We walked into a McDonald's and there's a line of cashiers and a line of people. And it's a line, and the line is moving. People are just getting, Big Macs, boop, boop, boop. People are being served. And I remember looking up at the board and seeing all of the options and thinking, I don't think at that point I've ever eaten at McDonald's before, but I know about the brand because it's international. Mm-hmm. And the manager of the store, who I assume was the supervisor and the manager, is standing behind the cashiers. And the cashiers are saying to the people, welcome to McDonald's, may I take your order? Welcome to McDonald's, may I take your order? And I'm not even close to the counter yet, but I'm the only person in this particular line. And the girl, she's making sad eye contact with me, saying, welcome to McDonald's, can I take your order? And I felt so assaulted. I felt like, I'm not even ready to order. Why are you shouting that at me, But it's like that. Her eyes were dead. And she was just repeating the script because that is what she's told to do in order to keep the thing moving. And I never forgot that moment. And I was like, this can't be real. This can't be real. There's no warmness in this. This is just her saying the thing she needs to say in order to keep the thing moving and to sell more products. So I can relate to that.
Yeah. So good customer service then can't necessarily be polite language, devoid of actual human connection and response in the moment, like actually seeing people instead of just looking through them. In the Caribbean, I think we also have another issue, which is, I think this is Trinidad in particular, because when we've been to other islands, it's been a little bit different. but like Trinidad in particular kind of sees service as subservience, and it's actually two different things. And so people don't like being a servant, and like in Trinidad, parlance, well, I'm the she boy, and so there's a mental block that you kind of have to jump over in order to fix that whole connection between customer service and relationship. Because if you have a relationship and you see it, you definitely see it in certain situations. If, for example, you see it with a lot of these food bloggers that come to Trinidad, and you see how regular Trinidadians treat them, and you realize we actually don't have a customer service problem. We have a problem with how we perceive relationships in certain situations. So, and I think that comes from that, I want to break away from that colonial mindset that I'm somehow dominated by and I'm a servant. And so that comes out in the way that a lot of customer service is delivered. Yeah. The third issue is my biggest pet peeve. Third issue, and then I can get some feedback from you on the three issues. Third issue is the biggest pet peeve, which is what I call post-purchase abandonment. Some companies are very good at engaging and treating with you as a customer in a very progressive manner and effective manner right up until you've paid. And then they forget about you. And good marketers know that marketing continues even after the purchase. What you want to do is you want them to become loyal. And loyal means long-term purchases. Loyal means they're going to talk about you. Loyal means they're going to represent the brand. And so you can't just abandon people because you say, okay, I get the sale, and you're on to the next sale, you're on to the next transaction, and you've completely ignored the relationship.
Yeah. How can someone do that though? How can someone, especially in the case where it's or the example we're using right now is fast food. How can someone have post-sale care in a fast food restaurant? How can we do that?
Well, the brand has to have the relationship. It wouldn't necessarily be individuals, even though they do play a part. Individuals in the restaurants do play a part. So, for example, I'm sure that some restaurants see the same people over and over. Yeah. Do managers take time to recognize that and say, oh, you want your regular, you want your 2-piece and fries, and show that level of, okay, I know this person or I've engaged with this person. The other side is that you actually have to build a relationship with the brand. Because if you have 1 million customers, you're not going to have 1 million customers with the branch manager. Or 1 million relationships, with the branch manager. But you can't have 1 million relationships with the brand. So how does the brand, how can you use your brand to continue that relationship and continue to engage with your target audience and not just sell to them? So then that creates a whole issue of what kind of content are you creating? What platforms are you on? How are you engaging with your market on those platforms? Not just selling to them. You see, if you just sell to them, then the brand becomes a selling brand and doesn't become a brand that I can have a long-term relationship with.
Yeah, I think that's a real challenge, And here's why I think that's a real challenge. I think it's a real challenge because, and I'll give you an example. So there's a place, and I did a video with this with Rendelina, the couple who does food reviews and content. So they were on our podcast. They were on the Useful Creator podcast. And then afterwards, I took them out to one of my places that I get wings, right?
Yeah.
And, the girl was very grateful. Rendell and Melina, they had a good time that they ate or whatever. But I actually go there, go to the place, actually buy from the people frequently, almost every week. Because that's like our fast food outing for the week if we have one, right?
Right.
There came a time in our relationship, and particularly after I did that video with them, that the girl, now I'm seeing the same person every week. It's the same 3 people in the store, right? So is the proprietor, the main chef, and she has her sister there with her and her husband. It's like a family. Husband runs the grill and she serves the food and whatnot, and the sister helps with the customer interaction.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where she's like, sometimes I would get there and she would have the thing basically already done. Or she would say usual. And I remember it came to a point where she was going, she said the usual. And I had to say to her, I'm trying something new this week. And I had to reorient the thing that I was buying. And then she took note of that. So the next time I came, she was saying, do you want this? And the reason that became easy after a while, apart from the fact that I was a repeat customer and I frequented there, it was because I was seeing the same person over and over again. And also we had developed beyond the relationship. But I also noticed that there were other people who come who she says that to. So it's not because I did the video for her. She just remembers her customers and she treats them in a very specific way. And when you have a brand like, let's just say a KFC or another big food brand, how can they have that same feeling without having to do that with a customer, without, because, they're going through new CSRs every single month. People come, they leave, you're never going to see the same person. The people who I see at a place for a long time, I will be shocked at how long they stay there because I don't expect them to stay. So how does a big brand deal with that? And we might not be talking to international brands on this show. We might be talking to people with smaller businesses, but if they intend to scale, how can they deal with that type of issue, especially when it comes to a customer service challenge?
Right. Certainly, we don't want to be picking on the big international brands, and they have a particular experience that, as you say, a smaller restaurant or smaller establishment may not have to deal with because they are there all the time and they're able to build that relationship. And it's true, when you are smaller and you're just starting out, you're able to build more direct relationships and be more effective in doing that. And bigger companies, especially these with high turnover, high staff turnover, what you start to get into is what you're looking for. And I think a lot of times people think customer service is only about the language. I think customer service a lot of time has to deal with how genuine or not the person comes across. And so a lot of times I think in my mind, I don't ever tell people this. I was like, I don't need all the good morning, sir. And what I need is a certain genuine response to the engagement. It's a limited time engagement. Yes, I know. But because you're representing this brand, you want to appear as though you really want to help the person get what they're looking for, which is what is, and not even appear, you want to actually help this person. So I think a lot of these companies have to focus on training in a particular way rather than training with scripts, train with empowerment, train with envisioning. So onboard them to the vision so they know, okay, this is part of the vision. So when I do this job, I want to represent this set of values, as opposed to just hitting me with a script. Because if you didn't give me the script, I wouldn't feel any less of a customer. But if you gave me genuine care or genuine concern for what I would want, when I come to a restaurant, that would tell me, okay, customer service, this is good customer service, because you're actually trying to get me to be satisfied with what I'm purchasing. So I think it is definitely difficult for especially for some of these bigger companies. But it's not impossible, because I've experienced it before, especially in other countries, where you have genuine concern to deliver a certain product, a certain level of product and service to you, and you feel it. It's something that you feel, is not something that you could tick off in a box. So a script is easy to tick off. So did you say good morning? Did you say welcome to McDonald's? Did you say, would you like to upsize that? So did you, those things that you can tick off.
Yeah.
But it would not necessarily mean that I feel taken care of.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. You said something earlier, which is escaping me now. I don't know why I forgot this particular point that you said. You made a real good point earlier that I wanted to talk about. So I would say that the script is a starting point, right? The script is a starting point. And last week, I mentioned that if I didn't believe in a company, I wouldn't create user-generated content for them, or even as an employee-generated content for them. And I think the same kind of applies to when you have CSRs, that they're just coming for a paycheck. and they are going to follow the rules to the point where they get paid. So they're not trying to be excellent or do extra or anything of that sort. And while the script is the starting point, and you do have to have standards, you do have to have, because if you don't have standards, people just do anything they feel like, then the whole thing falls apart. Mm-hmm. But it's almost more important to develop the culture of how you treat customers. It's more important to develop the idea that we are serving and put away the whole colonialist, I was once a slave, I was once indentured mindset, and say that in this context that I'm placed in, I have to give excellent service. And the way in which I give excellent service is understanding that the people who are coming into the store, into this restaurant, that they are the ones who will continue to keep the business thriving. And we have to treat them in a way that they'll want to come back. And I once heard a guy who owns a restaurant, was a high-end restaurant, talk about his strategies or his tactics to keep customers. The statistic was that if you come 3 times in a row, like within a certain time frame, then you're probably going to come back for the next how much years, statistically. Mm-hmm. That if you get somebody to come to your restaurant 3 times within this time frame, let's say the first 2 months, then statistically they're going to come back for this number of years. His focus in his restaurant was to get you to come back 3 times within this time frame. Mm-hmm. And so what he would do is that when somebody new comes in, on their table, they would put like a red napkin or whatever to indicate to the servers that this person, there's their first time here. So everybody who's serving and they come and they see this red thing on the table, they know that this person is their first time here. And when it's your first time here, what the manager, the supervisor, whoever comes out to see you, once you have a red thing on the table and they ask, how is your meal? And then they say, it's your first time here? Oh, let me give you this free piece of cheesecake. Right? It costs them $5 to give them that. And then they say, the next time you come, take a 10% discount, give you a card. So next time you come back, take a 10% discount off your dinner. And so their whole thing is to give you things 3 times so they get you to come back. Right. And once they get you to come back, you're basically inside. They have a customer for the next 5 years. But the way in which they do that is by excellent service. So people know that these people, you have to treat them really well. Not that they're going to treat you bad after you come back the first 3 times, but they are aware of the fact that it's not just the food, it's how people feel and how people are treated inside of that. And that's really critically important.
Yeah, totally agree. So part of that issue also is like a customization issue, like treating people like individuals. And I mean, leaving fast food aside, because that's the particular. We know that's difficult. We're not trying to beat up on fast food, but sometimes you go into a fast food restaurant and like certain things I don't eat anymore. So managing carbohydrates and types of carbohydrates, especially not just managing, but certain types. So you might go into a restaurant and you might see, okay, this part of the menu has sweet potatoes. But you don't want it from that part. You want sweet potatoes with this other thing. And when you ask somebody to adjust the order, you can see the brain freeze happening. And it's like the cuckoo bird starts coming out, like what's happening here? And you can see the employees completely out of the element, but trying to accommodate a personalization option. And I think good marketers and companies that market well have to be able to think in terms of the individual. As much as you think in terms of the target audience, you have to think in terms of the individual and how can we personalize some of our responses and some of our communication so that the customer service feels more human and more natural. Yeah. So you have to get that level of personalization. Go ahead.
No, sorry. I was going to... So the point you made is the exact point I forgot earlier, which is that people have to be empowered to be somewhat autonomous within certain parameters, obviously, to give the customer good service. Mm-hmm. You can't be a bot. You can't just be, I'm supposed to give you 2 ounces of this and that's it. Now, obviously, in terms of your standard operating procedures, you have to follow certain things. But from a customer service standpoint, there has to be some level of flexibility that people have in order to give good service. And nobody has to know what those things are. And it could feel natural when somebody actually does it for you. So that's really important. And I agree with that.
So that point made me think about my experience in Tunapuna Market. So I routinely go to Tunapuna Market to shop. And what I do for my own sanity is that I tend to go by the same people over and over. And what you would find happening is that there begins to accrue certain benefits from doing that. One of them is that there's this one lady, she would sometimes just decide, okay, let me give him 2 extra sweet potatoes. She literally, this is your bag? And you just see she throws some stuff in it. Or you might go and she might say, hey, take one of these breadfruit. And she is personalizing the experience to me because of the relationship that has developed over a certain period of time. And yes, of course, they own their own store, but they are empowered to do things like that. And so it seems like what you're saying is if businesses give a certain level of flexibility and empowerment, they can do things like that, even though you're not the owner of the market stall, but you're in a business and you're able to customize, or you're able to show extra care and consideration, or you may be even able to give a little bit extra in something, and make the person feel like, oh, this person is taking care of me.
That also leads to better long-term relationships if the person is able to do that. Yeah. All right, I think we are coming to the time where we need to wrap up. So what did we learn today, Ayinde?
As usual, start at the second point and work our way back. So 3 lessons I think we learned. 1, empowerment over execution. So yes, you can have a good script, but give me a little extra space to customize, a little bit extra space to connect human to human. And I want to paraphrase Simon Sinek. This is not the exact quote, but he said something like this: good service happens when a human is allowed to use their brain to help another human. Yeah. Next lesson, make customer service about the individual. Personalization is the highest form of marketing. If you remember the customer's preference, like you were talking about, they aren't just buying a product, but they are maintaining a particular bond with the company, with the brand. So like your wings lady remembers you. And the last point I would make is going back to the whole issue of how did I describe it? Post-purchase abandonment. Right. So don't abandon your customers, and then you have to go out and look for them again. So the lesson here is that it is 5, depending on the industry, Harvard research has shown, Harvard Business Review, 5 to 25 times cheaper to keep a customer than it is to go out and get a new one through an Instagram ad. Right. And that spread depends on the industry that you're in. So as a business, as a marketer, you want to focus on long-term customer relationship, not just up to the sale, not just how can I help you this morning, sir, and you get the sale, but how can I have a relationship after that so that I make them a loyal customer and I don't have to go back out and spend marketing dollars to get them to buy again. Yeah. Excellent. And what did we learn at the first part? I would say that websites are very much still relevant. Yeah. And it makes sense to have a website once that website is giving value to you and to your customer. And the website stands as a part of your digital ecosystem, your digital marketing ecosystem. So websites and content go hand in hand. And that will be things like blogs, you have your videos there, and you have all the different things on your website, as well as goes hand in hand with your social media content. Right. And ultimately, what you're trying to do is use your content that you're putting out on different distribution platforms as a way to send people back to your own space on the web where they can then now contact you. So it's like a communications hub or distribution hub for your customers, where you can deploy them to call you, you can deploy them to email you, you can deploy them to fill out a form, you can deploy them to DM you, or you can even send them back to social media for certain things depending on what you want. So I think the idea of having a website is very important. One of the tips that we found out is that
you should probably have more than one website for a big enough product or service that is very specific. So don't just try to jam everything all in one. So I think that websites are something that's still very relevant, and that they are useful and valuable once you use them in the correct way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to add to that. So even though, as you pointed out, click-through rates might be reducing, people still need to find you.
Yes.
And the website is still the best place for people to find you and the best way for people to find you.
Yes, agreed. Okay, people, thank you so much for joining us on It's Good to Relate, and we'll see you again very, very, very soon.
Good morning, everyone. Goodbye, everyone.